the number one concern we have in the West. I think all of the Western world can be unified around one thing, which is the thing we most care about is literally not us, anything else. Apparently, literally anything else is now our obsession. It's the one thing we can unify around.
I mean, we just learned from Varoufakis that the West is evil and also kind of doesn't exist. So what's there to rally around?
Unless we're talking about we Europeans, and then we do exist again.
Listen, why do I need domestic nationalism when I can get foreign nationalism?
Yeah. So for people who don't know what I'm talking about, I suppose I'll start off just by skipping this one and going straight to, hey, there was a bit of like a war or something on the weekend. Did you notice? Israel, Palestine doing their thing.
No, I overslept. What happened?
The same thing that happens every year over there. You know, every year there's a news story. What's happening, and it's the same thing. It's that again. It's just this year's version. So anyway, there's that. Horrific, not fun. But you know who wants to hear my opinions on the Israel-Palestine conflict? Not even me. I don't want to hear my opinions on the Israel-Palestine conflict. It's just not something I think I can provide any real light to, because, yeah, I might try and inform myself, watch all the videos about the history and blah, 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 blah. But what way am I going to help if I sit here and talk about that? So I'm not going to. There are some people who are going to apparently be better than me at that and talk about it tomorrow. But the two didn't read. Hamas invades parts of Israel from Gaza, attacks the military, and also a bunch of civilians, including an EDM festival, which was a weird thing to have on the border. Whatever. Not my world. So instead, we're going to talk about the response from the Western world, which was to make this our number one concern all of a sudden. Just before I go on, I'm going to promote Lads Hour. So this is who would you want to spend 48 hours as. So if you want to go check that out. I did have to stop that before we cancelled ourselves too hard. So do go and check that.
Yeah, I didn't watch that one. I wasn't in that day, but I heard that things got a bit spicy.
Carl doesn't know when to stop sometimes.
Carl? No.
Yeah, anyway, it was good fun. Anyway, but otherwise, do go and check that out. But we'll begin with the news. And the news was that, well, you know what the biggest thing that's relevant to Israel-Palestine is? Literally the entire West. We stand for one thing. Apparently, all of us are unified around, well, Palestine, it turns out. I didn't know this.
I mean, I'm looking at this video that you're showing me, and I think those who descend from the West make up a small percentage of those we've got on the screen.
Just as British are you as I.
Sorry, I forgot.
How could you say something like that? You know they're British because they're carrying foreign flags.
That's so true these days. It's like the Palestine flags, Ukrainian flags, never the Union flag.
It's just... look, you know they're British because they've got communist banners.
They've just got full-on communist flags as well.
You know they're British because they've got signs written in Arabic. What do you want?
Oh, of course, it's in Manchester as well.
So this is British people in Manchester who apparently have all risen up.
Turns out British protest.
Turns out all of the north, not just Manchester, but from the from the Irish Sea to the other sea, I suppose.
I don't know.
Palestine will be free. All of the north of England's rising up to agree with them.
I don't know. I see a lot of the global south here.
Well, I don't see.
Are the global south also invited to North FC?
I don't see differences because I'm a blind man.
Oh, okay.
So I can't tell.
I want to go see Specsavers about that.
It's actually kind of funny. We hear people just sit there being like, I don't see any differences. It's like, yeah, you probably should go check then, mate. Whatever. So the entire north, apparently, and apparently the entire south as well. So we can see here London. It turns out all of London, so the entire south of England, the north of England, every part of the UK. It turns out all of them were rising up for Palestine. It's amazing that... well, I suppose it's because of all the deep historical ties we have to the land as English people. It's something we'll never forget.
Well, like the Crusades.
Well, yeah, of course. I mean, I would have thought they'd be carrying Crusader flags if they wanted to care about our deep past with Palestine. But it's not just us.
And that man in that video clip is literally clapping along and dancing in his car with his Palestinian flag.
He is indeed.
Hi folks, we've rolled out a new feature on the website, which is the ability to pay for an individual piece of content. So usually it's £5 a month every month to subscribe to all of the content on the website. But I appreciate there are going to be people who simply don't want to do that. They would be interested instead in purchasing a single piece of content for a lower amount and they've got a particular niche that they're interested in watching. And so they don't want every single piece of content. They just want this one thing. So we've introduced this function where you can just simply purchase the one thing for £1.89, which I think is about $2.30 at the current exchange rates. And then that's just yours forever. So there's no sort of commitment there. There's no rolling subscription. It's just that one thing. So that's an option now that's on the website. It's completely live. It's completely available. And please go and enjoy it. And we'll see you all very soon.
I do love here, though. You have Dr. Charlotte over here celebrating the murderers and kidnapping of Israelis, quite possibly the most heinous act of public hate I've seen on the streets of London, she says, whilst living and walking around in London, which is a bad move.
Have we got the screenshots of some of her previous tweets on such matters?
No, we don't, but she's one of them, as I'm going to put it, because it's endless, these kinds of people.
She's Varoufakis adjacent.
Yes. Should we check out just a good meme, though, which I saw, which is, me sewing. Haha, yes, me reaping. What the hell? How could this happen to me? Says local person who thinks that mass migration is a great idea. And it wasn't just, the plebs of London rising up. The mayor got involved. Say a thing, as you can see here. Comes out and says, tragically, we know that the violence in the Middle East can lead to a rise in hate crime in London. Did you remember Azerbaijan and Armenia went to war recently? Do you remember how many hate crimes were caused in London? Do you remember all the fear of Armenians hunting down Azerbaijanis in the streets? No one cared. Weird. It's weird how this one causes a massive spike in hate crime in London. But other such conflicts do not.
I don't think this would have been a problem 60 years ago.
Why? I thought we had deep historic ties. Why all of London and Manchester were rising up in favor of Palestine?
I think something happened. What in particular, I can't put my finger on, though.
Still reaching out to the historians. He says here, I'm in touch with senior officers of the Met and communities across our city. Let me be clear. Hate crime in London will not be tolerated, now or ever. And then turns off replies. Don't know why he turned off replies. Most people think he's very, very concerned with attacks against Jews. I think he's deeply concerned, the mayor of London there. Do you agree?
Sadiq Khan is
maybe he's
so difficult to read.
Maybe he's deeply concerned with the gangs of Jews who are hunting down Muslims in London. I hear there's a massive Jewish population of London. Tens of thousands. No, there's whatever. Anyway, the Met Police decided to get a message and put out this, where they're just like, yeah, there's for some reason, we at the London police have now got a massive task to do because of something that's not anything to do with us. But I suppose it is now. You live in London. Good luck with it.
Problem with London, you can go back and you can read accounts from hundreds of years ago, is that whenever there's a foreign war, hundreds and then thousands of miles away, the streets of London have always just erupted into chaos. And nobody's been able to figure out why. For centuries, this problem's been going on.
We have figured out. I think we figured it out. We found the culprit, in fact, that Metropolitan Police are looking for. You're welcome, boys. We found him. There he is. This is Brian, 67, from Chungley-on-Thames, who has been caught here saying, we wish to demolish the Al-Aqsa Mosque and build their temple. By Allah, we will stop them. So there we are. We found the person who is being sought after.
Typical British nationalist response.
Biggest of hate crime committers. So there we are. But for some reason, the British Muslim leftists decided they were the most affected by this entire news. I don't know if you saw this. This is the Labour Muslim Network who came out and said, given recent events, the Labour Muslim Network is concerned and vigilant for Muslim delegates. Because Brian over there, his twin brother, who supports Israel, he's going to hunt down the Labour conference and go after leftist Western Muslims.
Brian's twin brother, Mohammed.
Maybe. It's a perfectly common name.
How would I know?
Yeah. Anyway, they go on in here.
I mean, what was it? I think Mohammed was the most common name for newborns in a particular city in Ireland last year. So, yeah, it's becoming just a classic British, United Kingdom, Irish name.
It has been, I think, the most common
Gaelic
boy's name since 2009 or something for the UK.
Yeah, it's horrifying.
That's wonderful. What are you complaining about? Just as British you as I. That's why they can't carry foreign flags.
I, too, have recently been kicked in the head by a donkey and can't understand the difference.
I can tell you why they were on red alert. I think yesterday was UN Day for Lesbians.
Indeed, the fight against lesbians continues. I do wonder, like, who is actually attacking lesbians? Genuinely, has there ever been a hate crime against a lesbian?
Callum, it's other lesbians.
I don't know, but that is why Sadiq Khan was worried, apparently.
I do love the idea that you've got Brian over there. He's like, you know what? I can't stand the lesbians. I've watched all their research films. They're the worst people on earth.
Bloody rug punching lessers. Can't stand them, I can't.
No, genuinely, like, if you ever met a homophobe, like a genuine homophobe, hates gay people, can't stand them, wants them to not exist, and then he goes on about lesbians. He never does he?
No.
It's always gay men. No one ever.
I think these people have a secret love of lesbians for some reason.
What, the whole world, or
no, the kind of people you mentioned.
Oh, homophobes.
Yeah.
Well,
no, the extreme type.
I think we all watch their films, so I think we're all we're all fans of.
Well, I mean, I have actually read into some of that recently, and yeah, it's amazing how when subjected to a foul smell, people's hatred for gay people, and this is across all spectrums of, you know, rabid homophobe to really, really like straight, but still a gay activist.
Oh, is this his research project?
This is research that's been done. They immediately dislike gays more, even if it's just a little bit, but no effect with lesbians. It's just like, no one cares.
That's weird.
Yeah, okay. It's very strange.
So Sadiq Khan most probably thought that there were many lesbophobes. Something that is why he had red alert.
As did the Labour Muslim Network.
And we at the Lotus here to stand with the lesbian community. If you would like to send us some
money,
good wishes, maybe some more research films, we'll be sure.
For God's sake, Callum.
Anyway, but back to the Muslims. So the Muslims decided that they put out this statement, and what I love about this, you've got the Labour Muslim Network here, literally just being like, we're the most affected, which is, you know, funny. But then they go on to list why criticizing them is just racism.
Why it should be illegal.
Sincerely. You may remember they actually did pass it into law. Which
requiring Muslims to criticize terrorist acts more vociferously than other people, or requiring Muslims to apologize for terrorism committed by extremists in the name of Islam, or holding Muslims collectively responsible for the acts of Muslim majority countries, paramilitary groups, or terrorists is a very bad thing. Just ignore all of the ones who are out in the streets celebrating and marching for the terrorist acts.
Islamic extremism has nothing to do with Islam or the extremities of Islam.
Which is why all of the Islamic members of Western countries go out and celebrate whenever anything like this happens.
Look, they're just as British as I, which is weird because what's strange is those who moved to Poland, all 0 of them, don't seem to care. You can see here Stephen pointing out, I'm in Warsaw, and for some reason we don't experience a rise in hate crimes or violence when terrorist attacks happen on innocent Israelis. Maybe diversity isn't a strength, he writes. But it's weird that this never happens ever. Like, I never hear anything from Poland about, did you know in Poland there are communities killing each other in the streets because of some nonsense half a world away? I mean, maybe I'm ignorant of the Polish life.
And I was telling to you before that I have a good friend in Warsaw who tells me that he went there and he doesn't have to deal with woke stuff. And he feels it's like a personal renaissance for him.
Coincidentally, whilst not having to deal with rise in hate crime is how we're going to put it, that's going to become a dog whistle now.
Right.
Just, the ethnic conflict, where it's just like, yeah, there's been, instead of saying there's been more diversity, there's been more rise in hate crime in London. You know, my town.
Yeah, in London,
a new housing estate and a rise in
London's
hate crime.
on red alert right now.
Anyway,
meaning there has been an ethnic war started in some Middle Eastern country.
Something has happened across the world.
They have to put it in a way that doesn't hurt the feelings of the audience.
And I'm not kidding either. Like, we've been over this before. I remember, what was it? Whenever something happens in Iran, there's a fight in London. Whenever something happens in Egypt, there's a fight in London. Whenever there was the fight in Syria and Iraq, that turned into a fight in London somehow. Just literally pick a country in the Middle East. So just, yeah, of course.
And London has erupted into chaos.
London is burning for some reason. Anyway, but this chap mentions that in Warsaw, for some reason, it doesn't happen.
It's cultural entanglement. So, you know, like the particles across the universe that they...
Oh, yeah.
That
one excites and...
Yes.
Well, it's true. It's real true. But for some reason, as I mentioned, the entire West is unified. It's not just north of London and south of London. They've all risen up with foreign flags. We can see here Berlin has decided to rise up with foreign flags because they're just as German, or, well, I suppose, I can't really say German as you or I. You got your 23andMe results back. Was there any German in there?
1, it was Ancestry, and 2, no.
All right.
Other than being 9% Sweden and Denmark, I am entirely local to the British Isles. No Irish in me, just 72 English, 18 Scottish, 1% Welsh, heartbreakingly.
But if you get a Palestinian flag, you could be German. That's how this works now.
Oh, yeah. Is this the magic soil again?
I think this is the magic soil. I think it's
Or
a
does
magic
the magic
piece of
soil
cloth.
only happen? Does the magic soil work if I'm white? Because I've never got a clear answer on that.
I think you become non-white the moment you buy the flag. I don't know.
Is it the second that somebody oppresses me, I'm not white? Is that what it is?
I think it's the moment you get privilege, you become non-white. That's how it works in the West.
The second that I get some like legal privilege, meaning that insulting me is illegal, that means I'm non-white.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
God, I love Western racial politics. It makes no sense whatsoever. You can see here Berlin, for some reason, rising up. That's what happened. Rotterdam, for some reason, liberated by the Canadian Army, of course, from Nazi tyranny, has also risen up in solidarity with the rest of Europe to stand with foreigners because, as you can see, just as Dutch as anyone else, including the Dutch, I presume. Moving on, they're not the only ones. Toronto decided to rise up too. The entire West, all of NATO nations have decided that the biggest concern as people who live in NATO countries is this.
We in the Anglosphere, we just can't help it. Typical Anglo behavior.
The Berlin, the Germans, the Dutch, the English, the Canadians. I mean, who can't stop the French Canadians, in fact. Montreal has risen up as well. It's amazing, isn't it? How could this happen? I didn't know that all of NATO had such deep ties to apparently the Communist Party included.
It is remarkable that Charlotte Proudman, that we saw earlier, is a leftist who's been completely in favor of importing foreign populations into Western countries the whole time. But they can never seem to get it around their heads that, wait, foreign people have foreign conflicts that they bring here? No, I just won't hear a word of it. What do you mean that Leicester erupted into a battle between the Muslims and the Hindus? This doesn't happen, never.
What was it over? Pakistan v India cricket. Yeah, just as British as you're right. I don't know.
It's what we said before, that they think that for some reason cultural influence get completely lost and overcome when people change borders. And it's the kind of Western conceit that many people have who have fallen for the descriptive version of the liberal democracy's the end of history narrative that says that anyone will automatically see that this system is the best and will automatically endorse it, which is dangerously false.
It's dangerously naive. I mean, Western peoples can be very naive and very sentimental. We are widely acknowledged as the weirdest, if you understand that term, people in the world because we are uniquely individualistic and uniquely
deluded.
Deluded in that we don't have any real sense, or the majority don't have any real sense of ethnocentricity, where the rest of the world is very ethnocentric, and it doesn't matter if they go to other countries and if they become part of those countries, they will still hold strong ties to their home countries.
I think there's another way to explain it. In that post-Cold War, a lot of people in the West, they thought that basically there is zero ethnic conflict any longer.
Just like in the Balkans.
The values that existed would spontaneously be adopted by everyone throughout the world, and that nations were, for instance, an obsolete category. This hasn't happened. And the sooner people realize this, the better.
But one thing I love about this whole thing, I mean, I think I tried to count it. I think this is actually the 20th Israel-Gaza conflict.
And it's been going on since 1948.
It's nice and unique. But the thing is, like, for never, obviously, in all of that time, had the entire West been unified. And this, eruption of Western unity, as we can see it. I mean, I love how you've got French Canada here and Anglo Canada. I mean, the beauty...
Finally, they're unified.
The beauty of globalization really is the ability to turn the entire world into the same bloody place.
Into a third world slum.
I mean, it really is just, what do we all do now? What is the West, really? Well, it's just whatever we import. And, well, could you think of the absolute, decades and decades of violence and fights over conscription and language rights and cultural differences and the ability to have your kids speak French in school has all come down to, what was the point, literally? What was the bloody point? We're literally the same place. We are just part of the world now.
I mean, why at the beginning of the Soviet Union was Ukraine so worried about, Stalin coming in, dekulakization, when they could have just imported in thousands of Palestinian people, and that all conflict would have gone away.
Imagine if we just imported everyone else, and then all the problems would shrink. I mean, I suppose they would, but now we have new problems, which is who's cyber on in the new Middle Eastern conflict. I guess they're not the only ones either, as you can see. Like Canada being, I mean, I'm sorry, but this really does just irk me in a way that's unnatural. Because you could sit there and play Hoi 4 or read about Canadian history and the conflicts between the Anglos and the Francos and all the detailed fights and it means
All
nothing.
for this.
All a waste of time. All of that history could just be thrown in the bloody trash at this point.
Yeah, but
Because London is exactly the same place, and including not only them, New York we have here. I mean, less so because of just pure numbers, but that's a thing. And then we have, I think there was Washington as well, but I didn't include it. That's my fault. But all the way to Sydney. All the way to Sydney.
Yep.
Australia, New Zealand, Germany,
I don't know
Netherlands.
how,
It's all the same place.
I don't know how accurate it was, but there seemed to be footage of these kinds of protesters burning things outside of the Sydney Opera House as well. So that's good. Stelios, you were about to say something.
no, I mean, I have lots of things to say, but now was not the moment.
Oh, okay.
But it really is, as you're saying, like those guys burning stuff outside the Sydney Opera House. Let's say they did. They might as well be in London. They might as well be in Berlin. They might as well be in Montreal or Toronto. It's exactly the same bloody place at this point.
And what frustrates me is that recently I've seen an increase in rhetoric from people like Andrew Tate and other people who are Muslims or recently converted Islamists in the West who are all saying what we need if we want to return to a sense of conservatism, to more old-fashioned and traditionalist values, is for all of the West to import these people, and so that they'll be able to. I think what's his name, Rakib Aysan, the Muslim guy who said that what we need to do is put Muslims and Afghanistans into the front living rooms of white liberals, which, great meme, but that's still a pretty horrible thing to have to do to somebody. He said that, we're going to return to British values by importing these people because these people are more conservative than the degenerate native populations are these days. No, they are not. They are conservative in their own way. They are conservative in a way that is particular to their nations. But when they come over here, they do not conform to British conservatism. They do not suddenly become old-fashioned patriots.
Why would they care? This isn't my land.
Yeah.
Like, regardless of how conservative I am, if you see it, we've spoken about it before, the Turks vote left in Germany but vote right in Turkey.
Yeah, this is something distributors spoke about on a recent debate that he had, and it's very frustrating because the import my based brown people doesn't work out because they will inevitably, when they get here, they will just vote for whichever party is saying, we will give you free things.
Well, in this case, they'll vote for whichever party is supporting Palestine. I love how literally I can go through this and you can't tell which country is which. It just could be anywhere. Who knows? Anyway, but getting back to London, because of course, someone here was very upset. We see Rachel Riley looking at this, and she's very upset. She's like, how could this happen in London? I mean, questions on a post-it note as to how this might have happened in London and not Warsaw. It's there's some people here waving Palestinian flags and chanting about, they're very happy with what's happened. And that's not the only thing, of course. I wanted to go back just to another aspect of all this, which is, you may remember 2 years ago, because as I mentioned, this happens every bloody year at this point. You can see here, this was more Palestinians who were doing their thing, and they decided to shout out, rape the Jews or rape their daughters. Sorry, fuck the Jews, rape their daughters. And they decided to chant that in a public place over megaphones so everyone could film it, hear it, and presumably live in fear of it. And you know what? You remember everyone said they were going to get done? The politicians all retweeted it, said they were going to send these guys to prison. And nothing. These guys get off scot-free.
Yep.
If you tweet a meme, you go to prison.
Yeah, but who is you?
Very good question.
That's the question.
Yeah, remember, what severity of law will be thrown against you depends entirely on whether you pass the color swab test or not.
And I love here, there's just the last data point, which is they mentioned, in fact, because I didn't know this at the time, the chaps who came down to shout all that, from Bradford. They drove from Bradford. Bradford, just another beautiful British town.
Drove 200 miles.
They just had to let everyone know. Anyway, just to end this off as well, you can also see here, this is a Greek asylum seeker detention facility. And again, just as average British or German or Canadian people do, they decided to come out and chant Allahu Akbar as what was going on in Palestine, which is totally normal. And I'm sick of it. I am so sick of the entire world being the same place. And this event, I just symbolized really well for me how much of this has happened Just the fact that you could pick any of these stupid bits of footage of people waving foreign flags, and you couldn't tell where they're from.
I saw a meme, though, that said that multiculturalism brings diversity and beauty. In homogenous nations, everything is the same and grey and boring, and you don't get spicy food.
Well, here is a homogenous nation, which is, well, certainly not boring, but not something I'm super stoked about trying to live in.
Yep.
Because it's, not my other land.
When you talk about multiculturalism, the question that is never asked is what kind of cultures can be compatible? And this is a very, very, very concrete question. The question is, what kind of behaviors are compatible with what other kinds of behaviors and what institutions? This is a question that very few people ask.
If you appreciated that segment from the podcast of the Lotus Eaters, you can go to lotuseaters.com to get access to all the premium content that's on the site, such as the Brokenomics series, this episode on house prices. And if you'd like to find out what else is being put out, you can follow on Getter at lotuseaters_com on Getter. Thank you and goodbye.